This is my full production rig for the Zcam E2 S6. So let's just jump right into it and break this down. What is up, beautiful people? It's your boy Joshua Martin. For those who are new to this channel, welcome. I am a filmmaker and content creator. I make documentaries, film experimental films, as well as I work for Moment. So if you're here to see a Zcam build and more videos like this, please consider subscribing. But let's get into the first question I want to kind of address is why even build out the Zcam or any other small camera like this? I see this question often because some people just find it silly to build out a big old camera and add more weight and this, that, and the other. The camera's a tool, and how you use this tool is really up to you because you're the one that's creating the content. So if you need to build it out as big as you need it for all the necessary assets for the batteries and wireless follow focus, all that jazz, do you. Don't worry about what people are asking. But for those who are asking, like I said, different jobs call for different rigs. So in this case, the Zcam E2 series, that lineup, which consists of the M4, the S6, which I have, the F6, and the F8, which is the two full frame cameras. So the Zcam E2 S6, I believe, is one of the best budget cinema camera options for a single camera operating use on the market. And what I mean by that is, if you're just a one-man band and you don't need to have a first AC on this on a larger production, you're going to be just fine with this camera as is. Now, if you are going to upscale and do a larger production with this type of system, the Zcam system that is, there are some limitations. I believe this rig can solve a lot of that I found. So let's just get it right into it. I've said this twice now. I'm so sorry for making you wait. Just to mention, this rig that you see here, this is going to be for my F6. I'm going to be purchasing the F6 soon, and that's going to be fully kitted out, and it'll look like this. I'm going to strip down the S6 for gimbal work and things like that. So like I was mentioning, the Zcam has some limitations, and one of the limitations for me personally was the size of it. It is fantastic to have a much smaller cinema camera that shoots 6K, has all these different resolution options and great image quality. But if I want to add extra items on my rig that are important for a shoot, the spacing of it is quite limited, and I want to keep it as compact as possible, but still adding a little bit of weight as well as the necessary tools that I need. So this past year, Smallrig collaborated with a filmmaker, Simon. His name is Simon, and he created this Z-back. This attaches to the back of the Zcam series, in this case the S6, with 4 M3 screws in the back within it. And then it has this this back plate, which you can have an adapter for a vmount battery. And I thought this was a great solution because now that I have a little bit more 1/4-20s, a few more NATO rails, and then it just also elongates the whole rig. And now that also brings balance to the rig as I build out with the mattbox up the front, the monitor, as well as adding the wireless system as well as the battery. Now I can have a much more balanced rig as I'm adding on weight. And to also mention, I use the 8-cent cage for the Zcam. I love this cage, a ton of 1/4-20s and 3/8, and as well as the base plate from 8-cent. Now when it comes to external ports for monitoring, right now the Zcam only offers HDMI, but they also provided a solution to use SDI, and the SDI converter sits right in the back of the battery slot, which allows now HDMI out and in with the DC out and in as well as the SDI out. And I'm just looping the traditional port from the camera into the converter and powering it through a DC cable as well, which the battery is going to be powering the camera, and I'll get to that later. But it's all going to be contained within the Z-back, well, majority of it. And that was one of the benefits of having a Z-back. It's a little bit better cable management, especially with longer cables, so they don't be stringing all over your rig and it just looks terrible, and it can cause problems with somebody snagging it. Now, this is not perfect cable management, but it's close enough where it's out of the way. and that's really thanks to Sprig, which is not sponsoring this video, but Sprig is a fantastic tool. Make sure to look in the links in the description. These is little clips that you can put onto your rig with quarter 20 attachments, and you can just have better cable management. Every filmmaker should have this in their kit. So another issue I ran into is that now that I have the SDI converter and I'm using a right angle SDI cable coming out, the length of it is a bit too long for the back of the Z-back to attach. So what I did, I had to look for M3 spacers, and so I just ordered a bunch so I could just have different options. I've ordered some metal ones, some 3D printed ones, and right now what you're seeing is an extender spacer for the 3M, and I have it directly into here. Now how durable this is, we'll test it over time. Hopefully it won't snap off because this is the 3D printed one. There are other options to have a much longer spacer that's just hollow, and you have just a longer 3M screw to fit. So that's the solution I came up with. What I did before attaching the back to the back of the Z-back, man, that was weird. I took a quarter 20 screw, and I have here the Teradek BOLT LT. I actually won this in the contest that they had, and I thought it would be really cool to just kit this out. And I will be doing some testing with the whole system compared to the Vaxx's 500 Atoms SDIs. It just actually works perfectly. It's nicely snugged, and it's just a almost seamless way of attaching this to the back. And all of that's going to be powering off of my DxO battery plate from Wood & Camera. This allows 2 D-tap outs, and then the battery that I'm using is the Anton Bauer Titon battery. You guys have seen me talk about this a lot. I use this on my previous cameras as well as the FF7. Love these batteries. These were pre-production and I got them early, but I still have them and they work fantastic. And so that last D-tap goes into the battery itself, and it just powers everything seamless. Now, I want to talk about the side handles. So I posted out a while ago that I purchased the Tilta side handle that was for the RED Komodo cage. And I thought it was a very sleek design, it is sexy, and it's really nice. The reason why I went ahead and bought this because it was available versus the handle that I ordered almost 3 weeks ago prior to this video, and it was from Smallrig. And that was their, really flush handle to the that sits near the cage. And so I got the Tilta one, and it was great. It's a little small, and it's a little hard to hold with a larger camera. The comfortability of this grip is not great when you have a bigger, heavier camera when it's attached to it. Is much better and more comfortable with just the camera body and the lens, and probably a monitor of some sort. But my other handle from Smallrig came through, and wow, this thing is amazing. It's comfortable, it's girthy, pause. It fits better in my hand. I'm not in a dilemma, but I'm definitely glad I have both of these now, so I can use the Tilta on a smaller rig, no pun intended, and I can use the Smallrig attached to the main camera because that handles the weight a lot better. And some of you were asking me, how did I attach the Tilta handle that's made for the Komodo to my cage? I have this NATO rail. I have a bunch of just small NATO rails, and this one works best because it has some height to it because this is so flushed. But I just attached this to the cage with some quarter 20 screws and just lock it in, and it's good to go. It sits really nice and snug. Same thing with the Smallrig handle. It's a flush mount. And I like the handles closer to the camera. It just feels more stable that way. Now, a lot of you have asked me about my thoughts on the Indy 7, and that video is coming soon. But that's what I'm using right now for the monitoring system. And I got to get used to using touchscreen again. I have the Swit CM75F. That's a super bright 7-inch monitor, but that just has a joystick, and I enjoy using that too. So similar systems. Swit has modeled their UI off of SmallHD, but this is a beautiful monitor. It has all the necessary ports, SDI, HDMI, and I'm powering all of that through the one battery that's attached, my vmount battery. Now here's a wild card. I had mentioned about using this kind of rig for full production, meaning you would have a first AC of some sort, or two people just manning the camera and operating the camera. Now, Zcam has a fantastic app, the best app I've ever used on a camera system. And what I've done, I can attach my phone here. I have this rigged up to this beast grip, and I can attach this to my cage. So a quick scenario, if I have a first AC who's pulling focus on the camera, but I want to control the camera, hit record and all the other stuff, make sure peaking and everything is good, I can have this mounted on the opposite side. I could do this wirelessly, or I can do it tethered, which I'll have to do it tethered because the Z back covers the wireless port. But tethered to the USB-C to lightning cable, and I am go. This thing is a beast when it comes to controlling the camera. Zero latency, not zero, it's very low latency, but that's a great option to use in tandem with a monitor already, so you can have a phone or an iPad or anything like that and attach it to the cage wherever you need to, really, and then just kind of operate from there. And just to mention a few things, I use the Zip Pro mattbox from Wooden Camera, as well as the Zip Focus Follow Focus. I really like having these for the handheld use. But if I need to switch out with a motor system, I have the Tilta Nano or the Tilta Nucleus M system as well. But there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more coming, so stick around. Make sure, again, hit that subscribe button and the bell. Why not? Just do all the things. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.